The film begins on a stormy night. She is Tess Marshall, the heroine of the film. Tess arrives in Detroit, Michigan for a job interview. She had applied for a research job with a documentary filmmaker named Catherine James. From the looks of it, Tess doesn't seem to have much money, so she's booked an Airbnb, 476 Barbary, in Brightmoor through property agent Bonnie Jane. But when she tried to check in, she couldn't find the house key, also could not contact the booker himself. Then, before she leaves, she sees a light on in her house and rings the bell. Keith, a resident of the house, answers and tells her that he is the same house listed on a different app called Home Away. Tess shows him what she recorded. The house may have been listed on both applications, leading to confusion. Watching the heavy rain outside, Keith politely offers Tess to spend the night at home. The Tess first seems to be suspicious, since a strange man will become a terrible experience for life. But she acknowledges she does not really trust Keith and keeps on inspecting his actions and items throughout the house. She couldn't book a hotel anywhere else, so she's going to bath and see the wallet in bedroom. A photo of his ID is for more protection. Keith calls her to share a bottle of wine. She explains that she is meeting with a filmmaker Catherine for a job interview. Keith says he has seen her last film, despite Tess thinking nobody else would have seen it. After a little conversation, Tess and Greet becomes very friendly, and Keith, once again, in his humility, lets Tess take the bedroom to rest for the night. In the middle of the night, Tess suddenly wakes up to an ominous noise and finds her bedroom door open. Then she hears Keith mumbling something in his sleep. This may be due to night terrors. A shadow can be seen lurking behind Tess on the porch and near the basement door. She tries to wake him up but startles them both. Keith denies anything is wrong. The next day, Tess goes to her interview. Keith says by letter that he can meet in the evening. When she steps outside, she is surprised to see that all the other houses around the Airbnb are abandoned and dilapidated. Afterwards, Tess meets Catherine at the restaurant. All goes well until Tess mentions where she's staying, and as soon as she hears the name Brightmoor, she tries to warn Tess not to live in an abandoned and haunted neighborhood, and Catherine warns her to get out of there quickly. But for some reason, Tess ignores the warning. When Tess returns to the house, a man named Andre runs after her and tells her to get out of the house. Although a bit spooked, Tess goes about her business and ends up going down toward the basement. The door locks behind her, and she has left her phone on the kitchen table. She finds a rope attached to the wall. Pulling the rope, she discovers a secret tunnel entrance. Despite some initial reluctance, Tess goes into the tunnel after a while. There she finds a strange room with a bed, a camera, a bucket and a bloody handprint on the wall. She runs back to the basement and sees Keith outside, so she calls him to take her out, and through the basement window, Tess hands him the house key so he can open the basement door. After that, Tess explains to Keith what she saw and says they need to get out of there. Keith tries to reassure her that there's nothing serious down there, so he goes to see it. Moments later, Tess goes in search of Keith, placing a chair in front of the basement door to keep it from closing, and heads inside the entrance. She discovered that there was another tunnel. She hears Keith screaming and calling for help. She walks down the stairs with fear. She is further horrified to see that there is an iron cage with blood on it. Then Tess finds him in the tunnel and he says something to him. Before they can run away, a hideous naked humanoid demon, the Mother, appears and brutally kills Keith by beating his head to death before roaring at Tess. 2 weeks later, a man named AJ Kilbride shows up. AJ is a TV actor who is driving when AJ gets a call from his colleagues. He was recently accused of sexual harassment by his co-star Megan Maddox, which led to the network deciding to drop him from the upcoming show. He decides to take legal action. This costs him a lot of money, so his wealth manager suggests that he sell some assets and bear the cost. AJ decided to sell his house in Brightmoor. The house was rented by Tess and Keith, and he sees his name getting affected in the press. AJ later goes out of state to the house he is renting, which happens to also be the Barbary house. When AJ arrives home, he finds Tess and Keith's belongings scattered all over the house. AJ later goes out with a friend, but he openly admits to pressuring the girl for sex. He then comes home and calls Megan, the woman who sexually accused him, apologizes and withdraws the complaint. But the girl did not give any answer and disconnected the call. The next day, he confirms that someone lives in the house, but he can't see anyone around. He decides to check the basement to make sure no one else is staying in the house, and goes cautiously with a knife and torchlight for safety. As he enters the basement, he finds a hidden door and a hidden room followed by a dungeon, just like Tess found. Then he searches the website to see if he can sell the house as well as the underground room. It is known that money will be available according to the length of the base, so he measures with a measuring tape. As he goes, he sees an iron cage with a bank of blood, ignores it and carries on happily. However, AJ walking further into the dungeon. He found another room with a television that was constantly broadcasting a video on how to feed a newborn baby. Something pulls on the measuring tape he brought. AJ is chased by the strange woman who lives in the dungeons, and AJ falls into a cage trying to escape. There he meets Tess. The film cuts from this and goes back to the crowded Barbary Street in the 80s. There we see a man named Frank who lived in 476 Barbary in the same house we saw earlier. He goes to a store to buy baby things. He then finds a young woman and follows her to her house. Frank is a predator who kidnaps women from the neighborhood and then locks them in the hidden room we saw earlier. He rapes his victims and records them on video camera. Dressed as a man from Frank Electric, Frank breaks into her house and opens her bathroom window. When he returns home, his neighbor Doug tells Frank that he and his wife are selling their house. In this way everyone leaves the house and goes to the city. At the beginning of the flashback, we see Frank buying some supplies for the soon-to-be-born baby. One of his victims became pregnant, and Frank may have purchased these items for the same reason. Back in the present, Tess tells AJ to be quiet and calm down. Tess has been locked up here for 2 weeks. The mother then lowers a baby bottle down into the pit, which Tess drinks from, but AJ is less willing. The strange woman thinks of them as her children. The mother enters the pit and treats Tess like her own child, but she growls at AJ. She drags AJ out of the pit. AJ is being force-fed. Then Tess uses the distraction to escape the dungeon and the mother does come running towards her when she steps on the steel tape and makes a noise. Tess breaks the window leading to the basement and is pulled out by Andre before the mother can reach her. Andre tries to get Tess to safety, but his conscience won't allow it, as he really wants to save AJ from the creature's clutches. So Andre says that if he wants to save AJ, you can only do it at night. That's when the creature will come out. Meanwhile, AJ finds an isolated room at the end of the tunnel and enters it, where he finds an elderly Frank, in bed, near death. By looking at the condition of the room, we can infer that Frank lived there for a long time and that the disfigured woman kept him alive. Frank finally gets up and asks AJ for something from the drawer, but AJ doesn't understand, so he moves the entire drawer towards his bed. Meanwhile, Tess calls the cops, but when they arrive, they believe that she is a strung-out addict due to her disheveled appearance. She brings them to the house, but since she has no proof that there is any evidence of a crime, the cops leave. Meanwhile, AJ notices some video cassettes on the shelf with different labels, all with the girl's name on them. Out of curiosity, AJ plays one of these tapes only to discover the true nature of human madness. AJ while cursing Frank for his bad deeds, Frank takes a gun from his drawer and shoots himself in the head. At night, Tess breaks into the house and retrieves his car keys. She waits in her car for the creature to come out to hunt her, and as it comes running towards her, Tess crashes her car into the creature. At this point, she probably believes the creature is dead, and thus she goes back into the dungeon to save AJ. There he also tried to escape with a gun. AJ thought the creature was closing in on him, causing him to fire into the darkness, the bullet hitting Tess. He apologizes to her and AJ tries to help Tess by taking her out of the house, where they discover the creature has disappeared. AJ brings Tess down by the water tower where Andre told her to go for safety. He explains to them that Frank owned the house and was most likely the source that booked the victims. He would kidnap women and rape them, producing children that he would also rape, and the mother is a product of incestuous rape that has been in the house for over 40 years. Although confident that she cannot find them, Andre is quickly proven wrong when the mother emerges and rips his arm off, then beats him to death with it. AJ, out of fear, leaves the bleeding Tess completely behind and runs away. While Tess runs in pain for her life, Tess and AJ head towards a water tower. AJ drops the gun as the mother starts to catch up to them. AJ thinks he can redeem himself and save both of them, so he grabs Tess and throws her off the tower, knowing that the mother will instinctively follow her child. AJ, running down, the mother appears to be dead. As he tries to justify his actions to Tess, the mother rears up and gouges out his eyes with her thumb. She snaps AJ's head in two. Tess, on the other hand, knew that even if the creature meant her no harm, she wouldn't let it get away from her. The creature wanted to take Tess back to Frank's house and she wanted it to nurse her. It's not her fault because she was raised in a traumatic and toxic environment. Nothing can help her. Thus, Tess decides to shoot her and kills her. In the end, Tess not only saved herself from the creature's clutches, but freed the disfigured woman from her own obsessions. Tess then gets up and leaves the area where she came for the interview, and with this the terrible night came to an end. Please like and support our channel to reach 1000 subscribe. I hope you enjoy this video. Thanks for watching.